The United States is the third largest nation by land size and population. It's also a fairly young nation, and because of these attributes, it developed very differently from other older nations around the world. The phenomenon associated with this development is what's known as urban sprawl, the uncontrolled or haphazard expansion of urban areas into surrounding rural or undeveloped land. But is urban sprawl good or bad? Let's try to answer that. Today, the car is the main form of transportation within the United States, as well as in Canada and Australia. One similarity of these nations is their immense physical size, with Canada ranking second, the US third, and Australia sixth. Physical size plays a role in that inland areas are further from major cities and highly populated coastal areas. Linking highways into remote areas opened a lot of doors, establishing economic and societal passages. It's even more commonly seen in the United States, and that's what we're focusing on today. In this week's episode, we're going to explore what urban sprawl is. First, we'll talk about its history, then we'll talk about the negatives it's created, and after that, the positives. Then we'll talk about possible solutions that could be implemented to deal with the negative impacts of sprawl. First though, if you enjoy geography and earth science content, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Our World, Our Planet, Our Home. Let's get started. To understand urban sprawl, we must go back to the 19th century. At that time, the United States was a small but growing country. Northeastern cities such as Boston, New York City, and Philadelphia were very developed, but other American cities within the Midwest and West weren't. In the early 19th century, horse-drawn wagons and carriages were the primary means of transportation on land. Roads were often unpaved and in poor condition, making travel slow and uncomfortable. The development of railroads in the mid-19th century revolutionized transportation in the U.S. The first operational steam-powered locomotive, the Tom Thumb, was introduced in 1830. Railroads quickly expanded across the country, connecting distant regions, facilitating the movement of people and goods, and contributing to westward expansion. This also contributed to the vast growth of Rust Belt cities, such as Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Detroit, and especially Chicago, which went on to become the current third largest city in the U.S. One of the most significant transportation projects of the 19th century was the completion of the first transcontinental railroad in 1869. This linked the eastern and western coast, further accelerating western expansion and trade. This then led to the settling of people in western cities such as Denver, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Oregon, and Seattle. But by the end of the 19th century and into the early 20th century, something started to change. Automobiles began making inroads onto American landscapes. Initially, automobiles were for the wealthy. Then, in 1908, Henry Ford introduced the Ford Model T. The Model T was the first mass-produced automobile designed for the average consumer. Ford's use of assembly line production techniques significantly reduced the cost of manufacturing, making the Model T more affordable. By breaking down the manufacturing process into smaller, more specialized tasks and having workers and machines in a continuous flow, Ford was able to dramatically increase production efficiency. This allowed for faster production and lowered costs, which were passed on to the consumers. Another influential step in the growing automotive industry was Standard Oil, started by John D. Rockefeller in 1870. Initially, much of the oil was used for lamps, industrial processes, and heating oil. But when the internal combustion engine came out in the late 19th century, gasoline, a refined petroleum product, began being used more frequently. Standard Oil had a lot to do with the refining of oil into gasoline, and this further increased the popularity of automobiles. Then, in 1911, the United States Supreme Court said that Standard Oil was a monopoly, and thereafter it was broken up into 43 different companies, including current well-known ones such as Exxon and Mobil, which merged into ExxonMobil in 1999, Chevron, and Marathon. By the 1920s and 1930s, U.S. highways, the first system within the U.S., began to expand. After World War II, many veterans came home and started families. William Levitt and his company, Levitt & Sons, began building new communities of what became known as Levitt Towns. Two well-known ones are Levittown, New York, on Long Island in a suburb of New York City, and Levittown, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia. Many other developers began constructing suburban homes, and in the 1950s, with the introduction of the interstate highway system, these suburbs increased substantially in size. By the end of the 20th century, the majority of Americans lived in suburbs, and today that number stands around 52%. All these historical milestones have led to urban sprawl, outward from major American cities. Virtually every American city has surrounding suburbs, which are designed horizontally rather than vertically. The most sprawled out cities are in the south and western U.S. Los Angeles is often cited as one of the prime examples of urban sprawl in the U.S. Its vast metropolitan area covers a large geographical area, and it's known for its extensive highway system and low-density suburban development. In Texas, Houston is another city known for its urban sprawl. It lacks comprehensive zoning regulations, which has led to the abundance of low-density suburban development and its heavy dependence on automobiles. And in the Southwest Desert, Phoenix, Arizona has seen extensive sprawl due to its rapid population growth and expansive suburban development. The city's design is heavily automobile-centric. Because of the growth of suburbia in America, urban sprawl has become a fabric of American landscapes. But is it good or bad? Like everything, there are good and bad sides. Let's start with the bad side. One negative is car dependency. In more compact nations within Europe, many communities are walkable and have lots of mass transit options. In America's suburbia, it's more car-orientated. Urban sprawl typically relies heavily on automobile transportation, which can lead to higher expenses, greater carbon emissions, and limited mobility options for individuals who do not own cars. Related to car dependency, traffic congestion can be an issue too. Suburban living often necessitates long commutes by car, leading to traffic congestion, longer commute times, and increased stress for residents. And again, it also contributes to air pollution. Societally, urban sprawl may cause health problems, both physical and mental. Suburban areas are often designed with a focus on cars rather than pedestrians, leading to reduced walkability and limited access to public transportation. The lack of walkability may lead to increased rates of obesity, which can cause heart disease, increased stroke risk, and diabetes. Mentally, suburban living can be isolating for some individuals, as it may result in less social interaction and fewer opportunities for community engagement compared to denser urban neighborhoods. Although urban sprawl has its negatives, there are also positives. One is diverse housing arrangements. Typically, dense cities have more apartments and multifamily dwellings, but suburbs usually have multiple options, including single-family homes, townhouses, and apartments, which can cater to a variety of income levels and lifestyles. Since urban sprawled areas are less dense, this can actually lead to improved air quality. Less congestion, particularly in less dense communities, and more green spaces can contribute to improved air quality in suburban areas, benefiting residents' health. With green spaces, suburban areas often have more green areas, parks, and recreational facilities, providing residents with opportunities for outdoor activities and a higher quality of life. Economically, certain types of businesses, small and large, can do better in suburban areas, especially ones located within malls and strip malls. Also, suburbs tend to have more big box stores, such as Walmart, Costco, and Target. Generally, the cost of items in these stores is lower and cheaper for consumers. Now that we have covered the history, definition, negatives, and positives of urban sprawl, what solutions can be implemented to improve the negative sides? Realistically, the design in American metropolitan areas will remain the same, so that can't change. However, certain steps can be executed in communities to lessen the bad sides. One which is becoming more commonly seen is new urbanism, which was covered briefly in my video about interstate highways. It emphasizes creating walkable mixed-use neighborhoods with a focus on community and sustainability. In the past, many suburban communities would construct garden apartments, and while they were densely populated, it didn't include commercial zoning within, leading residents still having to use their automobile. But new urbanistic communities encourage mixed-use zoning, where residential, commercial, and recreational spaces coexist in close proximity. This approach aims to reduce the need for long commutes and create vibrant communities. Contemporary urban planning often incorporates mixed-use elements to promote sustainability and convenience. Another implementation can be increasing the amount of mass transit options. The Metropolitan Transit Authority of Harris County, simply known as Metro, is a major public transit agency for the Houston, Texas area. Metro was working on expanding its light rail system, known as Metrorail. Expansion projects included the development of new rail lines and extensions to existing ones. For example, the University Line was a proposed extension connecting the Central Business District to the University of Houston, although it faced delays and funding challenges. Additionally, funding is a roadblock for many American communities, leading to a lack of advancement. In terms of automobiles, one shift that can alleviate issues such as pollution is electric vehicles. Directly, electric vehicles are clean and emit no greenhouse gases. This can lead to improved air quality and lessen the effects of future climatic changes. However, there are limitations. One is demand. Although electric vehicles are becoming more commonplace on the road, internal combustion engine vehicles are the majority. This lack of demand may be related to the initial investment in an electric vehicle. But more and more incentives are being offered, meaning consumers may start to warm up to them. In terms of the vehicle itself, limitations include limited range and cold weather performance. Range during really cold days for electric vehicles is significantly reduced. And the U.S. charging infrastructure, while growing, most likely cannot handle a majority electric vehicle market. Tesla is the only automaker that has a well-developed charging infrastructure. Other automakers have yet to build their own, but recently Tesla said they wanted to share their network, so this may help out some. In a young automobile-oriented country, urban sprawl is part of the artificially created landscape. Homes, malls, office parks, industrial parks, green spaces, and more have been built in communities throughout the U.S. And while much of it during the 20th century was not concentrated on sustainability, much of the planning is now. By adding sustainable practices of development into the picture, this will advance urban sprawled communities into the rest of the 21st century and beyond. Thank you so much again for watching this week's episode. If you would like to leave your feedback, please do so in the comment section below. I look forward to providing you with more episodes and short videos on geography and earth science. Until next time!